Dogs. Everybody loves them, right? That's why, whether it's bounding homeward, playing basketball, or raising Freddy Krueger from the dead by peeing fire on his grave, audiences just can't get enough of seeing man's best friend on the big screen.
Kaya, please just fucking just stop.
Which is why today we're going to take a look at Good Boy, the small independent film that made a big splash on the festival circuit earlier this year by showing audiences a horror movie from a dog's point of view, which I assume is just 2 hours of this.
He was my dog. I'll do it.
So, sit back, relax, and get your bowl of kibble ready, folks, as we take a spoiler-free look at Good Boy.
You're being such a baby.
But before we do, if you could help me reach 2,000 subs by pressing the subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, here we go. So, Good Boy is the story of Indy, a loyal and lovable Nova Scotia duck-tolling retriever, as well as his owner Todd, who, as of late, has been suffering from an unknown but severe illness. Dealing with this sickness for a very long time, Todd decides to stay in his grandfather's cabin that is located deep in the woods of rural New Jersey, in the hopes of escaping the constant worry and coddling that people often experience from loved ones when facing a terminal diagnosis. And while Todd seems to enjoy the peace and tranquility that comes with living life alone in the country, Indy is experiencing something totally different, seeing something lurking in the shadows of the cabin that seems to be feeding on Todd's illness. And as Todd's health slowly begins to decline, it seems that whatever is inside the house is trying to consume him from the inside, causing him to sleepwalk, act aggressive, and sink into a deep depression with the intention of having Todd meet the same grisly fate as others who've spent way too much time alone in the cabin. So now it's up to Indy and his heightened senses to save Todd before it's too late, resulting in a clever, well-made little movie that does something that I've long thought was impossible, delivering a horror movie in a unique and original way. It also manages to have a few moments of real suspense and tension that are peppered throughout its 1 hour and 13-minute runtime. However, the plot is pretty thin, so much so that I'm not sure there's enough story to justify even that short of a runtime, nor do I think that the movie executed on its premise as well as it could have. Before I get into all that, let me start by saying that there are several things about this movie that should be applauded. The first of which is the dedication that it took to bring this movie to life. Using his own dog, who's named Indy in real life, writer and director Ben Leonberg spent 400 days, over the course of 3 years, filming this movie. With Indy not having any stand-in dogs, and Leonberg not being a professional dog trainer, there were some days that he was only able to film 1 or 2 shots. However, despite these limitations, Leonberg was able to get a very natural performance from Indy, as the audience is able to understand what he's thinking without a single line of dialogue. Apparently, this was all achieved by Leonberg making strange noises and using special toys to get the dog to react and move in certain ways. Then, in post-production, used music and editing to bring Indy's performance to life. This kind of commitment from a filmmaker is very commendable, and this level of dedication is what I personally love to see from those who are trying to make their first movie. As for the horror elements in the film, for the most part, it's handled pretty well. It's able to maintain a tense atmosphere when necessary, and smartly doesn't try to show you too much of what might be inside the cabin, keeping the presence that's lurking there mostly out of sight and seen only by Indy, playing on that eerie behavior that dogs sometimes have, staring at empty corners like they see something that we don't. This was apparently inspired by the movie Poltergeist, where, like Indy in this movie, the family dog is the first character to notice the presence of ghosts inside the house. The camera work is also very clever, with the movie shot from low angles and its human characters rarely shot from above the waist in order to prioritize Indy's point of view. However, with that said, there are a few things that hold Good Boy back from being as great as it could have been. The first of which is the performance from its human characters. Being mostly shot from the waist down, we never actually see their faces, so all their dialogue is heard off screen, and it's obvious that it was all added in post-production. The line delivery is very flat, and it seems like it was written just in case audiences couldn't follow what was happening through Indy's performance alone. Honestly, I think the movie would have been stronger without any human dialogue at all, or if there was dialogue, it should have sounded the way Indy would hear it, muffled, distant, and mostly unintelligible, except for the occasional training command like sit or stay. That approach would have pulled us deeper into Indy's perspective and freed the movie from dialogue that doesn't really matter. Finally, there's just not enough story to support even this movie's very short runtime of just over an hour. This becomes apparent when several moments repeat themselves, and the movie starts to drag in the middle. I personally think that if this movie was shorter, say 40 to 45 minutes, then it would have worked a lot better. So, at the end of the day, would I recommend this movie? Yes, I would. While I don't like it as much as a lot of people have in the festival circuit, I think the novelty alone of a movie told from a dog's point of view is enough to warrant at least one watch. At only an hour and 13 minutes long, you won't be wasting a ton of time on it if you end up not liking it, and at the very least, its strong emotional core about the bond between people and their pets will leave you appreciating the love that you feel from your dogs even more.
Shout my dog, I can't stop, yeah. If Kaya tried to move, she out of love.